The Prisoner of Zenda. Chapter 3. Dressed as the king of Ruritania, I rode on through the streets of Strelsau towards the palace, expecting to hear Antoinette de Maupin tell everyone that I wasn't really the king. Yet, I heard no one calling out, and I didn't look back. Perhaps she hadn't recognized me after all. I heard Marshal Strauchan's give an order to his men, and we suddenly entered the poor part of the town, where the people were loyal to Duke Michael. "Why have we changed our route?" I asked the marshal. "It's better this way," he explained. Surely, this way, however, was into a part of town where the people supported Duke Michael. How could this be a better way for the king? I stopped my horse and thought carefully. Perhaps this was the marshal's plan to test me. "Tell your soldiers to ride ahead of me," I told the marshal. "I don't need them or you. You can wait here until I've continued through the old town alone. I want the people who live here to see that their king trusted them." Zapt looked worried and shook his head. I could see that he thought this was a very bad idea. Nevertheless, if I was to be a king, I decided I want to act like a king. All of my people should like me, not just a few. "Don't you understand me? Tell your soldiers to go," I shouted. The marshal looked surprised, but gave the orders for his soldiers to go ahead, and Zapt's face looked even more anxious. I realized that if I were killed in this part of town, Zapt's position would become very difficult. When all the soldiers were out of sight, I rode on my own through the streets of the old town. Now that I was alone on my horse, I realized how white, how clean my uniform seemed compared to the old buildings around me. The narrow streets were lined with hundreds of people, and I could feel their eyes on me. First, people talked quietly, but then I started to hear cheering. I was so close to the people in this poor area that I could easily hear what the people were saying about me. "I'm surprised that he is on his own, but he's taller than I thought," said one. "His skin is very white," said another. Although some people smiled and cheered, others were quiet and looked at me angrily. I saw many paintings of the Duke in their windows, and I knew what they thought of me. Despite their anger, I reached the outside of the palace safely, and I got off my horse. Briefly, I saw Zapt, whose expression was one of relief that I was still alive. It was now almost time for the coronation, and a group of soldiers led me inside a beautiful building. There were so many people that I didn't know who was doing what. But I remember a beautiful young woman with red hair, who I knew was Princess Flavia, and a man with red cheeks, dark eyes, and dark hair, who I knew must be Michael. When he saw me, his face became white. Until that moment, I don't think he realized that the king had come to Strelsau. What can I remember of that coronation that was so important to the future of Ruritania? Very little, except the golden crown being placed on my head and a few other details. I remember the promises I was asked to read out and the beautiful music that played when someone announced that Rodolph V was now king of Ruritania. Most of all, I remember being greeted by Duke Michael, whose hands shook with anger when he took his hand in mine, and who wouldn't look at my eyes as he coldly said, "Congratulations." However, no one else, not even the princess, seemed to realize that I wasn't the real king. So there I stood in the palace for an hour, as if I had always been a king, getting the many ambassadors and important people who came to see me. I became worried when a man I knew from England, Lord Topham, also came to greet me, but his eyes were so poor that he probably wouldn't have noticed me anyway. It was now time for me to go in a coach around the streets with the princess. "When is the wedding?" I heard someone call, and I wished I had asked Zapt the answer to that very question. At the moment, the princess looked at me and said, "Do you know, Rodolphe, you look different today. You look more tired and serious, and I think you are thinner. I can't believe that you really have changed today." "I think I want to change now that I am king," I replied. "Perhaps you already have. I heard that you rode through the old town alone," she continued. "That surprised me. The people there must really have appreciated what you did." I smiled. "I hope I'll make a good king," I said. The coach had now arrived back at the palace, and once inside the building, I took my seat at my own table next to Duke Michael, with that behind me and Fritz nearby. I felt like a king, but I also thought, where is the real king, and what is he doing now? Later that afternoon, I sat down in my bed feeling exhausted. Zapt and the Freds were still by my side, now looking very happy that our plan had been a success. That was a day to remember," said Fritz. I think I like to be king for a day, but Rosalind, you mustn't try too hard. I'm not sure it was a good idea to ride alone through the old town. Duke Michael won't like it if you become too popular with his people, you know." "Well, in a few hours I'll become Rodolphe Rosalind once more," I said, remembering that I would be king only until that night. "Only if you stay alive as long as that," said Zapt. "Michael has had news from Zenda, and he's almost certainly planning something. You must leave the country as soon as you can, but you need a permit to leave the city." "Who can I get a permit from?" I asked. "The king, of course," said Zapt, putting on a table a form for me to sign on a paper with the king's signature for me to copy. "Look, I can pretend to be the king because I look like him," I said. "That doesn't mean I can write like him too." "Oh, it's not hard to copy," said Zapt, and he did it easily for me. "Now, remember our plan. I'll go with you, Rosalind," said Zapt. "Now, Fritz, you will tell everyone that the king has gone to bed and that he isn't to be woken by anybody until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Do you understand, Fritz? No one." I understand," said Fritz. "Michael may try to visit," continued Zapt, "but you mustn't let him in, even if your life depends on it." I don't need to be told that," said Fritz proudly. "Here, put on this big coat and hat," Zapt said to me. "Now, are you ready to go?" "I'm ready," I said. I shook Fritz's hand and set off, not through the door, but through a panel. in the wall which led to a dark passage. In the old king's time, I knew all about this secret passage, Zapt explained. I followed Zapt down the long dark passage which ended in a heavy wooden door. Zapt unlocked it, and we went out into a quiet street which ran along the back of the palace gardens. A man was waiting for us with 2 horses. Without saying anything, we climbed onto the horses and rode away. At that time of the day, the town was busy and full of noise, but we took the quiet back streets. My coat and hat covered my face and hair, and I tried to stay low on the horse so no one would recognize me. "Take your gun," said Zapt. "You may need it to get through the city gates. They will all be closed at this time of day." It was 6:30, and so light, when we reached one of the tall wooden gates through the city walls. Zapt knocked on the gate, and we were very relieved when a few seconds later, a girl of about 13 appeared. "My father isn't here. I'm afraid he has gone to see the king," she said. "Your father should have stayed here," said Zapt. "But he told me not to open the gate for anyone," said the girl. "Then you must give me the key to open it. Here is a form from the king himself. You can show it to your father when he returns," said Zapt. Then gave the girl the signed form and a coin and took the key from her hand. We quickly opened the gate, led our horses out, and closed it again behind us. "Now we must move quickly," Zapt told me as we got back on the horse. Once we were outside the city, there was little danger, as nearly everyone was in the streets celebrating the coronation. It became a clear night with a shining moon, and soon we began to talk. "What do you think the Duke knows about our plan?" I said. "I don't know," said Zapt. A little later, we stopped at an inn so that our horses could have a drink, and this lost us half an hour. We then continued and had gone around 40 kilometers from the city when Zapt suddenly stopped. It was nearly 9:30. "Listen, I can hear something," he cried. Far behind us, we could just hear the noise of horses coming towards us. I looked at Zapt and saw worry in his face. "We are lucky that the wind is blowing towards us so we can hear them. Come on," he called, and we set off fast. After some time, we stopped again and couldn't hear the other horses, so we slowed down and thought we could relax. However, a little farther, we stopped once more, and this time we heard them. Zapt got off his horse and put his ear to the ground. "I think there are 2 horses," he said. "They are about 2 kilometers behind." We went on quickly, and eventually we reached the tall dark trees of the forest of Zenda and stopped at a fork in the road. One road went deep into the forest. The other went outside the forest towards the town. "To the right is our road, to the left is the castle. Now, get off, you horse." "Get off, or they will catch us," I said. "Get off, you horse," he repeated angrily, and I did what he asked. We took the horses into the dark trees and waited quietly where we could see the road. But they, whoever they were, couldn't see us. I saw that Zapt had a gun in his hand. "Do you want to see who they are?" I whispered. "Do you want to see who they are?" "Yes, and where they are going," Zapt answered. Soon we could hear the horses getting nearer and nearer. The moon was full now, so we could see the road clearly. Here they come, Zapt whispered. Look, it's the Duke. On the road through the forest, I could see the Duke and a strong-looking man who Zapt later told me was Max Wolf, brother to Johann, who I had seen at the inn. When they reached the fork in the road, they stopped. Which way? Asked Duke Michael. I think we should go to the castle where we can learn the truth, said Max. Why not the hunting lodge? Said Michael. If all is well, why go there? And if all isn't well, I fear there will be a trap, said Max. The Duke didn't move and seemed to be listening. I thought I heard something, he said quietly. I saw Zapt lift up his gun, but the Duke then said, To Zenda then. And they set off once more. I could see that Zapt still held up his gun and was pointing it at the Duke. But although I knew he would have loved to shoot, he realized it wouldn't have helped the king at this moment. He put his gun away once more. We waited silently for 10 minutes before we came out from the trees. So he has had news that all is well, said Zapt. What does that mean? I asked. I wish I knew, said Zapt. It's a real puzzle. We rode on through the forest as fast as our tired horses would allow. We said nothing, and I thought about what the Duke had said. What did all's well mean? Was all well with the king? It didn't take us long to reach the hunting lodge where we had left the king and quickly jump off our horses. The lodge was dark and quiet, and no one came out to meet us. All of a sudden, Zapt took hold of my arm. Look there, he said, pointing at 5 or 6 torn and dirty handkerchiefs on the ground. That's what I used to tie up the old woman. Fasten the horses and let's see what has happened. The front door to the lodge was unlocked, and we went into the room where I had eaten the night before. Plates and cups were still on the table. Come on, said Zapt. And we ran down the passage toward the cellar where we had left the king. But the door to the cellar was open. So, they found the old woman, I said. I realized that when I saw the handkerchiefs, said Zapt. Where's Joseph and the king? I asked. We found another door inside the cellar that was locked, and it took a lot of work to get it open. It was dark inside and completely silent, and I could see Zapt was looking very worried. He loved the king and would have hated anything about to have happened to him. So I told him to stay where he was and went inside the room with a candle. There were a lot of things on the floor of the dark room as if there had been a fight. I held up a candle and saw spiders on the walls. Then far in one corner, I saw a body. I slowly went back outside the room to tell Zapt what I had seen. It's not good news. I'm afraid he's dead, I said. The king? He cried, putting his hand over his mouth. No, the body is Joseph. The king isn't there. I closed the heavy door behind me, and we walked with heavy hearts back from the cellar to the dining room. So, they have got the king, said Zapt, sitting down heavily with his hands over his face. That's why they say that all is well. But when did they find out? I asked. Michael must have known all day, said Zat. What did he think when he met me then? He knew I wasn't the real king. It doesn't matter what he thought then, said Zat. What matters is what he thinks now. We must get back and collect every soldier in Strelsau. Michael will have to be caught before the king is killed. Wait, said Zat. We need to think. It must have been the old woman who told them what had happened somehow. I understand now. They came here to kidnap the king, and they found him in the room in the cellar. If we hadn't escaped to Strelsau, you would have been killed. So, where is the king now? I asked. I've no idea, he said. But you could see at the coronation that Duke Michael is really worried. Let's think about how we can worry him a bit more. A clock in the house struck one as Zat stood up with a smile, and I could see that he had another plan. We will go back to Strelsau, he said excitedly. The king will be back in the capital again tomorrow. How is that possible if we don't know where he is? I asked. We will go back to Strelsau and continue with the game we started. You have done a good job until now, so why not continue? Do you mean you want me to be the king again? I asked. Yes, I do.